So this is Family Sunday at Joseph of Arimathea Church. As I was preparing to come, I asked myself, who was Joseph of Arimathea, and why would anyone call or name the church after this person? And I found out that Joseph of Arimathea was a rich, a wealthy Jewish man belonging to the Sanhedrin, who took the body of Jesus and buried it when everybody else was speaking a different language. And so I concluded that the people of Joseph of Arimathea Church are the wealthy people of this neighborhood, and I'm not even talking about the parking lot. I concluded that the people of Arimathea are the learned people, watu wamesoma, and I have confirmed that when I had the short introduction of the strategic committee. I had professor, I had doctors, I had the so-and-sos. And so the person that named this church could have done it prophetically and prophesied that the people that will come to this church will be the wealthy and generous and learned people. Bwana asifiwe. And so this morning I am well pleased to be associated with the wealthy and learned people of Joseph of Arimathea. Bwana asifiwe. I am happy to be here. Hamkai kama mmefurahia. Atikuwa nyinyi ndiye masonko wa area. Siyo ni mzuri, especially kwa hii economy. I'm happy to be here on the Family Sunday. And I thought I was invited by Reverend Canon Githaiga, but seeing that Christine is the member of the family committee, I am beginning to suspect that Christine was responsible for my invitation. Asante, Christine. I am happy, truly, truly happy to be here. As Canon told me that he will not be here today, he told me that I was going to meet wonderful lay leaders, and I confirmed this as I was warmly welcomed by Dr. Catherine. Thank you very much, Dr. Catherine, and also the Vicar's Warden, who has introduced me this morning. I don't know where she got some of the information, but I am happy with her introduction. I'm also happy to be here because in this congregation are some of my relatives. Yeah, my favorite sister Wambaire is one of you. And I'm also happy to note that Joseph and Pauline are also your members. I've learned this morning that Pauline is the chair of the Mothers Union. Yeah, Pauline, I am really happy. Could you also have had something to do with this invitation? We shall talk about that in the family meeting. Thank you very much. I've also seen my friends and my colleagues of many years, Mr. and Mrs. Mwangi Kaheno. I am so happy to see you here, especially Madam singing in the choir. Yeah, I can now look forward to retirement so that I can also be singing in the choir, but I need to learn a few tips from Madam Mwangi, who was my colleague as I was Principal Kamahoha Girls. She was the Chief Principal here, Girls, and we collaborated and did many things together. Bwana Kaheno, our colleague, later turned our boss. I'm also happy to see you looking young. Kwani miaka inaenda reverse? Or it's about serving in this wonderful church, Joseph of Arimathea. My name, as you have been told, is Margaret Wairimu. I am a mother, and I am happy to have some of my family members here. Yeah, Dr. Wambui was the designated driver this morning to bring the preacher to church. Dr. Wambui, if you don't mind, you can stand and wave. Yeah, that's my daughter. I also have my son and daughter, Harry and Winnie. I have seen you somewhere. Yeah, just stand up and wave. Yeah. Thank you. I also bring you the apology of my husband David, who is out of town and sends me his greetings. Do you receive them? I'm also so pleased to have in the sanctuary my goddaughter, Kenzo Marie and Miles. Those are my godchildren, and I am so pleased. Just wave, Miles. Wave, Kenzo. Thank you. So this is family. Thank you. You may sit down, Miles. As you have been told, I am a teacher. I work by the grace of God right now serving as the chief principal, Dogoto Teachers Training College. I am a teacher educator. As I saw the family committee, I was reminded of my association with the Marriage Encounter Worldwide, which is a pro-family entity that draws on Christian values. Wangapi wamesikia family encounter, marriage encounter? Yeah, mostly it is Catholics that are very much there, but I can see what you're doing with the Family Life Committee is well aligned. My connection with this church is, of course, through Canon, though now I'm starting to suspect otherwise. Canon is our chair of a welfare committee, of a welfare group, Hekima, and he is our chair of welfare. He's a very influential man. So when he asked me to come, I wouldn't dare turn him down, kwa sababu chairman wa welfare ni yule mtu anaweza sema wiki ijayo tunaenda kuvisit Margaret Kainga, na unajua wakikuja hawakujangi mkono mtupu. Kwa hivyo singekataa. And yeah, I am truly grateful. I have strong connections, though I should have mentioned that I fellowship with the PCA church. My home church is PCA Dome. There is, somebody told me that is neighbors. It's near neighbors, just behind the Mountain Mall. That's where we fellowship together with my family. But I have been fortunate to have a strong association with the Anglican Church when I was seconded to head one of ACK's premier institution, the Limuru Girls School. And I might have met some of you there because a lot of Anglican members brought their children there. And I was there for 10 years. And during that time, I fellowshipped with the ACK All Saints Kamonde in Tigoni. And there I had a wonderful, wonderful time with the Anglican Church. And that is where I first met Canon Samuel. He is a kind and humble man, a true servant of God. And may this reach him. He is godly in a quiet, firm, cool, and collected way. Canon Samuel, I am happy that you are my friend. And the family too, Christine, I've seen Wendy, I didn't see the other children, but they are all my friends. And now to our readings of today. Being Family Sunday, I thought about the teachings, yale mambo ambaye yanaweza kutusaidia kama familia. And as I stand here, I am so humbled because it is only by the grace of God that it is today myself standing here. I see a lot of seniors sitting in front of me, some who may have much more experience and even deeper knowledge on family issues than myself. But I am humbled and truly honored to be the one to share the word this morning. And so, in our first reading, Proverbs 14, we see the wisest man, Solomon, though women might say differently, on record, who is talking about the fear of God as the foundation that a person can be able to stand on. It is the fear of the Lord which is the fountain of life. According to the wisest man who ever lived is the fear of God. And this turns a person from the snares of death. Of course, for thriving families, we live in this particular society, and we need a formula to escape from death and into life. And in this scripture, we are seeing the truth, telling the truth to ourselves and to our children. Huyu mtu ambaye alikuwa ni mtu mwenye hekima zaidi duniani kote. Hakuna mwingine ambaye tumemsikia akiwa mtu wa hekima kama Suleimani. Anatuelekeza leo katika vile tunaweza ishi, how we can live and escape from death. How will that be? It is by telling the truth to ourselves and to our children. And we see this coming up again in the New Testament, that the truth will set you free. When we tell the truth, we are not deceitful. And that way, the Lord is our refuge to us and our children. Being Family Sunday, we are not just thinking about ourselves, but we are thinking about ourselves and our children into the generations. And here, the wisest man is giving us his counsel that the way to life is by telling the truth and not being deceitful to ourselves and to our children. When we fear the Lord, he becomes our source. When we fear and honor the Lord, he becomes our source and indeed the fountain of life, preserving us and taking us higher and higher. This morning we have had wonderful music from the choir. There's something about standing here that makes you see this as a really beautiful church. Kwingine tunaonanga wamama ndio wengi, boy child mmoja mmoja, lakini this is a balanced church. From where I stand, I see the demographics are well balanced. From the boy child, the children that presented before us here, indeed, this is a wonderful church. Nagikuyu tugaga rorurutare tugodu. Hakuna wakikuyu hapa? Ama walibaki nyumbani? Ya, rorurutare tugodu. Tiroru. And therefore, this is a wonderful congregation, a wonderful flock that has children as well. I have said the book of Proverbs is attributed to Solomon, the undisputably the wisest man who ever lived. And indeed, the whole book is a must-read for families that desire godly wisdom. In his writings, he emphasizes the fear of God. Wisdom indeed brings reverence to God, because if you look at the number of times that Solomon talks about the fear of God and knowing his wisdom, then it is only in wisdom that we can emphasize this attribute of fear of God. And this virtue must have been instilled to him by his father, David, when he wrote, train up the child in the way that they should go. When you train up a child, ukimfundisha vile anatakikana ende, hata akiwa mtu mzima, they will not depart from it. This is Proverbs 22 and verse 6. And so when Solomon is talking about training up a child, I want to believe that he himself was trained up by his father. In the book of Psalms, we see David himself writing, "A fool says in his heart that there is no God." And this must have been some of the teachings that David impacted on his son. A fool says in his heart, there is no God. And so, in the opposite, a wise man knows in his heart that there is God and fears God. And you know, these days, the fools have become even louder and bolder. Yeah? They are no longer saying it in their hearts. See, those fools of those days, they said it in their hearts, sindio? Walikuwa wanasema kimoyo-moyo. Lakini siku hizi, these people who Psalms 14 and verse 1 is calling the fools, they are no longer saying it in their hearts. They are saying it on TV. They are saying it on social media, and even in the streets with the placards. Recently, I believe that you heard about it, they even went to court and filed a case. And they said in their petition, how is it that Christmas is a public holiday for Christians and Eid is a public holiday for Muslims? We who say there is no God, where is our day? Yeah, you heard about that case. Simulisikia. Sinyinyi ni wasomi. Yeah, but the judge was equally wise. Yeah, huyo hakimu pia alikuwa na hekima. Aliwaambiaje? The judge told them, you have your day. It is the 1st of April of every year. So tell your neighbor, there is God in heaven. Neighbor, there is God in heaven. Amesikia kweli? Ni kama hajasikia. Kama anakaa hajasikia, mwambie tena. A wise man says it loud and clear that there is God in heaven. Najua wengine wanaogopanga kuongea kanisani. Yeah. There is God in heaven who reigns above all creation. We must say it louder, now more than ever. Yeah? Wengine wanaogopa. Unajua kuna wahubiri wanapenda kusema, tell your neighbor. Na saa ingine hutaki kutell your neighbor. Na a monkey and a baboon in the congregation. Na walikuwa wameketi pamoja. Na preacher akasema, tell your neighbor, you are beautifully and wonderfully made. Sasa monkey aliangalia. All in another place tells us that all scripture is inspired by God. And indeed, this particular scripture is God-inspired. Wives, submit to your husbands as it is fitting in the Lord. And what are the husbands supposed to do? Husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. The children are not left behind. Children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. And the fathers? Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. Are there discouraged children anywhere? Have you seen discouraged children? Yes. Fathers, you have a role to not to embitter them. Don't say things that make them feel bad, because they will become discouraged. In the book of Ephesians, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right, so that it may go well with you, and you may enjoy long life on earth. But it quickly adds what fathers should do. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. And that is in Ephesians 6 and verse 1 and then 3 to 4. Nothing exasperates children more than two people they love the most shouting at each other in their presence. Yeah? Si mnaona hiyo picha? Mnaona hiyo picha? Lakini haiwezi kuwa hapa Bishop, hapa Joseph of Arimathea. Huku hakuna watu wenye wanaongeleshana hivyo. Si hapa ni watu wamesoma, ni watu wako na mali, hata economy ikiwa vile iko. We thank God. Nothing makes children more desperate. Hakuna kitu inakasirisha, inaweka watoto katika hali mbaya. Huyu ni baba nampenda, huyu ni mama nampenda, alafu wote wawili hawaelewani. If you must, kwa sababu we live on earth, si ndio? Binguni ni kuenda tutaenda. If you must have an argument, find a place far from the children. Yeah? I'm sure Canon has a place with Christine. If they want to shout at each other, you can give them a room somewhere. They shout and then they go home. In Finland, I saw a church which was called Peace Church. You go in and it is all peace and quiet. I am sure there is a space in Nairobi somewhere where if you want to shout at one another, you can find your way there. On the way, take a sip of water so that you can keep the mouth shut. Keep the water in the mouth so that you do not shout at each other in front of the children. Ask me. I know how bad this can be. Don't even pretend to be a good person after that. If only we knew the damage. And especially the young starting out families. If you knew the damage that this causes, my sister, my brother, you would take a sip of water anytime you feel like shouting. That exasperates the children. You know, somebody said recently, you know, every time we have an argument with my wife, she wants to shout at her daughters. How desperate can that be? Kindly. I'll leave my number with the vicar's warden so that if you need a place to shout, you can call me. I can provide a space when Christine is busy. Now that that is off my chest, no shouting at each other, wives submit. This, my sister, is not negotiable. Yeah? Ati nikijisikia leo nitasubmit kesho sita. It is the irreducible minimum. Fahari wawili hawawezi kaa kwa zizi moja. Si hao ni wahenga walisema hivyo? Kama wewe ni fahari na huyu mwingine ni fahari, fahari is a what? Is a bull, si ndio? Yeah, so if there are two bulls, how can they live in the same place? This arrangement called marriage is not an equal partnership. Sorry if I'm blowing your bubble. It's not an equal partnership. There is a wife and there is a husband. Hii ingine ya wife and wife, mimi hiyo sijui, ama husband and husband. The assumption here is before you accepted to be wife or husband, you did your due diligence because function follows form. Did you confirm beyond reasonable doubt that this man is worth your submission? There is somebody, a really kind soul, who was walking around in winter and found a frozen snake on the roadside. And the snake was pleading, "Take me to some warm place. I am really cold." And the kind person said, "Sasa wewe, na wewe ni nyoka, nikikupeleka kwa nyumba, si unaweza kuniuma?" And the snake said, "No, I cannot bite you. I am really frozen. I need somewhere warm." And the kind person took the snake and took the snake home. And of course, near the fire, soon the snake vowed, and the snake started doing what snake? Yeah, a snake can only be a snake, so as it slithered away, it made sure that it had beaten the person. And the person was screaming, "Why did you bite me?" And then the snake said, "As you took me in, you knew I was a snake. I could only be a snake." So, my sister, my brother, if you're in the process of decision making, a snake can only be a snake. But we thank God because there is a redemption at the cross. Boy child, you committed to love unconditionally. And therefore, as a teacher of mathematics, we used to talk about the LCM, the least common multiple. We all want to be loved. That is the least. As women, we want to be loved. Do unto others. As women, as men, as children, we all want to be loved. That is the least commonality that we have. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We also talked about the small things that keep us together. And what are those small things? Flowers. Wangapi wamepata flowers this side of Valentine's? Haija, hakuna mikono? Wangapi wamepata chocolate? Hakuna? Na huku ni Joseph of Arimathea. Wacha tu niseme hata mimi siwezi mind. So, the small things that keep us together, the small things that make us happy. Let us go out of our way, doing unto others what we would have them do unto us. So in maths, we also talked about the highest common divisor. What are those big things that drive us apart? Communication or lack thereof. Let us not communicate like some of our parents did. Those of my generation, we remember our parents communicating. Akikuachia mtoto, tulikuwa tunaachiwa mtoto na githeri. Githeri lazima ive, si ni kweli? Mtoto lazima uchunge na umpatie chakula. So I realize the Kikuyus are not here today. Yeah, but I hope you'll find a translator. So our mother would say, and Wambaire might remember this, "Nidagotigera mwana ucio, utindi ugicina mwana githeri na mwana ona ndukamuhe irio." So they communicated. I can hear some of you can relate to that. The cell of society is the family, and that is the reason why it is under attack. The family is under attack. The destroyer wishes to destroy humanity, but you can't destroy humanity as a whole. You have to target the smallest unit, and that is the family. So next time there is a disagreement or there is a conflict within the family, remember, it is targeted. Remember, you are targeted as the smallest unit of humanity. So, what are the tasks and purposes of the family? The first one I want to point out is upbringing of children. God generously places his creation in our care in his unique way through biological means. Kuna wale watoto Mungu ametupatia through biological means, others through adoption, voluntary, or even out of necessity. We find ourselves with orphans or even relatives in distress. In whichever way, the responsibility of bringing up children comes to our doorstep. It is the responsibility of the parents, or even children who have been parentified, to come together and bring up the next generation, because humanity will only continue to exist if there are people purposefully bringing up the next generation. In some unfortunate instances, husbands and wives become the firstborn. Sijui mmeona hao, lakini hawako hapa. Pahali ambapo unaona huyu bwana ni kama ndiye firstborn kwa hii family, anakuwa maintained kama high schooler, ama wife amekuwa firstborn ya huyu mwanaume. Akipeana pocket money kwa watoto, lazima pia ape kwa wife. Iko hiyo kweli hapa? Hiyo haiko. Yeah, I've said in some unfortunate circumstances. They are the slay moms, the slay dads. Daddy ye kazi yake ni kutulia tu pale kwa sofa, mama aende job, arudi, agawe mambo ya kesho, kila mtu apewe pocket money, including the children and husband. Each partner must contribute to the common purpose of the family. Najua sisi wale ambao ni wazee hii tunajua, lakini hawa wachanga saa ingine wanafanya nini? Wanasahau. Na tuache kusema bibi yangu haezi kuwa mama mboga. Mnajua siku hizi mama mboga ni mtu wa maana sana. So hata kama kazi imekosekana kwa hii economy, kila mtu lazima afanye nini? Ahaso. Mama mboga pia ni mtu wa maana. I am cognizant of single parent households out of widowhood or other circumstances, or even choice. God's grace is sufficient. I have a lot of respect for mothers and fathers who commit to raise their children single-handedly. May God visit you in a special way. My mother raised 10 of us single-handedly. Our father was there, but he was having fun. He was resting in the bars and in such places. Now he rests in peace. But I want to say, I have a lot of respect for single mothers, for single fathers. May God continue visiting you in a special way. If he left or she left, heal and move on. Do not turn your bitterness onto the children. I remember our mother was not the happy kind. Yeah, she would look at us, and all of us look alike. Simeona Wambaire anafanana na mimi. Yeah, all of us look alike, and we have the eyes of our dad. So you can imagine 10 of us looking at her, and our eyes are big. By the way, mine have become smaller as I grow older. They used to be bigger when we were younger. So she would look at us and tell us, "Tiga ikodra na maitho macio mabale awagashira." You know, and anyway, those were the only eyes that we had. And we can, looking back, now I can understand the bitterness that can come with, being left or having somebody who is not supportive. And yet all these children are reminding you of this person. So if he left or she left, heal and move on. Do not turn your bitterness onto the children. In her book, Brave Soul, this lady, Kahil Yok, says, listen, you may not be responsible for your wound. You don't even deserve the pain that you went through. But your healing is your sole responsibility. Tell your neighbor, your healing is your sole responsibility. And because there is grace, God avails grace. If you need healing, go to the great healer. He will heal you. The second purpose of the family is care of the needs of the members. Family is the primary economic unit. They are both needs and wants. Yeah, so women, is the wig a need or a want? It's only for women. I can hear the boy child is responding louder. Yeah, this is specific for the women. Is the wig 50K or whatever amount, is it a need or a want? Okay, for some is a need, for some is a want. Whatever it is, let us remember that the family is the smallest economic unit. There are men from a certain community that do not reveal their economic situation to their spouses. And I am told they are not here. Yani, hata mkiwa kwa supermarket, mkifika pale kwa till, yeye ndiye analipa, si ndio? Lakini anapinduka hivi kwa koti, akiangalia kama wako hapa hapana. So, let the family finances be discussed. Let it be that every member of the family is well taken care of within the needs, within the means of the family. So in some places, I'll not name where, you find the only person that drives a car drives a really big one, and it is of course the man of the family. And then of course everybody else is on 101. I don't know, but let's remember that it is within the family, the basic unit of economy. Let us be open to one another, spouses, in as far as matters of finance are concerned. I know family finance is a completely different topic, but I just wanted to touch on it as one of the issues that we should consider in thriving families. The family is the primary education unit. Waswahili wanasema asiyefunzwa na mamae hufunzwa na ulimwengu. We know how bad a teacher the world can be. Maybe Waswahili walisema mamae, but I would also like to say mamae na babae. Both intellectual and moral teachings. Mtoto atalan nyumbani. If you cannot teach your child, no teacher will. And are there teachers in the house? Yeah, other than myself and Mrs. Mwangi? Are teachers in the house? Please wave. If you are one of those, you can attest. If the child will not learn from home, no teacher will teach that child. Because the family is the primary and the basic unit of both intellectual and moral teaching. If you don't teach them, the children are very good at pretending. They'll just pretend at school and then come home and be the same. My experience in public schools, and Madam Mwangi can also help me here. Parents would bring girls to school and tell me, nimewaleta in a public school so that they can learn to wash their own clothes, so that they can harden. I don't know what parents meant. Ms. Mwangi, did you get to know what they meant? Yeah? Ninawaleta so that wa harden. And for sure, because in school, you operate with a routine. And there is no space for you to decide what time you wake up. Everybody woke up at 5. Everybody washed their own clothes. Maybe those who had pocket money, they paid others to wash for them. But what happened when they came back home? Si walilala mpaka saa ile walitaka kuamka. Yeah. They cleaned after themselves in school, but when they came home, si kuna auntie. They left their clothes wherever and left auntie to pick them. So, if you cannot teach your child, no teacher will. They just pretend in school and come back and be who they are. The family is the primary spiritual community. It is the first Sunday school. You are the first Sunday school teacher. Don't send them to church if you are not going yourself. You know, I'm so happy to see the fathers here. We've been to places where unasikia wanasema huyu baba alikuwa kwanza ametuma bibi na watoto waende kanisa, yeye alikuwa afuate baadaye, lakini sasa Mungu amemchukua kabla hajafanya nini? Yeah, you can see the long sentences used. The truth is, if you are not going to church, do not bother sending the children, because as they say, what you do is so loud, they cannot hear what you are saying. If you are not ready to be the example, don't bother talking so much, because your actions, they say to speak louder than words. Your actions are so loud, the children cannot even hear what you are saying. Within the family, there is the mutual obligation of spouses. And I know Canon Samuel is better at that when he talks about 1 + 1 becoming. Class ililala. You know, the maths classes were not in the afternoon. Eh? So this maths class, 1 + 1 is 1. It is about a partnership, total revelation, not on a need-to-know basis. I think most people operate on a need-to-know basis. Let us instead go to total revelation. I've talked about communities where men are taught to be secretive to their wives. In the family is where we expect mutual love. That within the family, you will be loved. You are assured beyond reasonable doubt that you will get love within the family. Let us love one another for thriving families. In conclusion, by God's help, let every member of the family aspire to provide mutual assistance. Engage in common planning. These days, I'm told, the new houses that are coming up, they have a man cave. Mmesikia hiyo? Ati kuna man cave within the house where the man goes to plan. I believe if there's going to be a cave for planning, let it be man and woman cave. And where possible, man, woman, children's cave. Protect family finances. Be ambitious, but live within your current means. Head in the clouds, but feed family on the ground. We are in the era of Fuliza, Mshwari, and all manner of loans. Some families I have encountered or that have come to me talk about either the lady or the man taking loans that the other partner is not even aware about, and this sinks the family into debt with one partner not even aware. Within the family, let us provide material welfare and spiritual welfare. Let us take up roles in the family and be alive to the responsibility, to responsible assumption of parenthood. Let us provide well-ordered love. Sisi ni watu wa mutaratara. It's not love just for, has well-ordered love so that we do not spoil our children. Let's take actions that are pro-life, pro-health, actively preventing defective and injurious education and exposure to our children. we have a responsibility to making sure that our young children are not exposed to violent or immoral TV content. And I am told these days news at 7 and news at 9 is one of these violent and immoral TV shows. God help us, and other social media. Let us remember that as parents, we have limits. There's a limit of parental duties and responsibilities. 65, you cannot own a person. Yeah? Children are not a possession. Ati watoto wangu. Yeah? Watoto wangu. They are your children, but you are limited by the rights of the children. There are things that you cannot do. They are your children, yes, but you are 3 things are necessary for the salvation of man. To know what he ought to know what he ought to believe, to know what he ought to desire, and to know what he ought to do. This in culture, morality, law, education, and faith. I am quoting Thomas of Aquinas. It is our responsibility to bring to the understanding of our children what they ought to believe, what they ought to desire, and what they ought to do in culture, in morality, in law, in education, and in faith. Parents, we have a responsibility of our children only to the extent that it is right and lawful in the background, in the backdrop of the rights of the church, because the church also has a right over your children. Once you have brought them to church, the church has a right. The state has a right over the children. And these are also limited by age. We must set boundaries. You know, I have heard around here that even children of age, the parents still wants to be the giver. The child is working, but parents still wants to provide, and big children still want to live with their mother. Yes, they are working, but as parents, if you are the giver, know your boundaries, because the takers have none. Grown children, if your parents brought you to school, what else do you want from them? Nini ingine unataka kwa mzazi? Amekusomesha, amekulea, umepata kazi, nini ingine unataka? Bring up your own children. You want them to bring up your own children as well? Kwa sababu wako na experience. Natetea retirees. Yeah? So, if your parents brought you up, took you to school, gave you a good education, sasa, bring up your own children. Let us allow our parents to enjoy their retirement. Na hawajanituma, si ati wamenituma, but I know they want to enjoy their retirement. May God, who is the creator of the family, from the first family in Eden and the Holy Family in Nazareth, give us wisdom to play our roles as husbands, as wives, as parents, and as children in accordance with his divine intention, for thriving families and societies, and to the glory of his name. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.